Welcome back to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and I'm back for part 2 with Devon Deyhle from Tall Truck in Danville here. Now, Devon, we left off the last part. You were just telling us about a super touching text message that you got from one of your employees, and you just sent it to me. I'd like to read that if that's okay with you.
Do it.
Here we go. It says, "You, sir, are the best boss I have ever had. It is an absolute pleasure to work for Tall Truck. You are the finest boss I've ever had that I am not scared of, and it's the best feeling in the world. The first boss I have ever had that I am not scared of, and it's the best feeling in the world to love my job for the first time in my entire life working. I cannot stress that enough when I say I love this job. I really, really do." Now, how do you feel when you read something like that from one of your employees?
It's pretty awesome. It makes you feel pretty good. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm doing things correctly as a boss. But you know something, also this particular person, she works her tail off too. She works her tail off. She gets her grams per hour numbers are right up there with everybody else's. She's a wonderful worker. She enjoys her job, and it shows. And to receive that this past week was really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the current state of the kind of job market and this nobody wants to work anymore shit, it must be nice to have hardworking employees and they feel taken care of.
It is. And I'll tell you, it's hard to find reliable quality ones too. That's another thing that folks are going to encounter. Everybody wants to work in the marijuana industry. I get texts all the time, DMs all the time. Everybody wants to work in the cannabis industry, and you employ them. And after a week or two of sitting there and trimming or doing the tedious, repetitive labor, they drop out and they're not as excited about it. So,
well, let me tell you, I've done some trimming and it kind of sucks after a while. It's repetitive and but I mean, it's got to be done.
It's got to be done. And I've got a crew of people that have been doing it now. A couple of them have been doing it for 3 or 4 years, nonstop, weekly, full time.
Yeah, so this seems like a good transition. During our meeting at your house, you were talking about this this home occupancy stuff. I'll just read the quote that you said and get your reaction here. You said, because of the home occupancy clause, I'm only going to be able to have one employee. So I'm going to have to figure out if there's a way to do contractors in order to get under the 1,000 square feet and get around the fire marshal inspection. I have to do the home occupancy. And you said you had to install handicap ramps and widen your doors and stuff like that. Where are we at on that?
Well, because I'm going to stick with the home occupancy, I'm good. I'm going to be able to only have one full-time employee, as I had mentioned, and I've learned more about that since we had our meeting previously, where I made that statement. I am going to have just one full-time employee, and I'm going to use independent contractors for the rest of my trimming operations. And I am hoping that the people that I have now will want to become independent contractors, and that will enable them to also provide their services to other cultivators. Should there not be enough harvest with Tall Truck to keep them, when the times are slow, which they can happen in between harvests, that will enable them to offer their services to others.
So is there any other ways in which the relationship changes if you turn someone from an employee into a contractor?
Well, that's a good question. I'm assuming there are probably plenty of ways in which that would change the dynamics of things, because then you are expecting the employer, quote unquote, the employer, me, I would not be their employer. I would not be able to dictate their hours. I would not, and I don't really anyway. I'm very flexible that way.
Yeah, it seems like it.
They would be in charge of getting the job done. I would present them, for example, with a lump of cannabis, for example, and it would be their job to get that done in a timely manner on their responsibility, without me breathing down their back, so to speak. That's, I think, probably one of the main things. I mean, for the way things are going now, because of the way that the market has to be at this time for several more months, they're kind of independent contractors, just not insured at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say it does kind of seem like that.
Yeah, they are.
Hmm,
Yep.
interesting. Um, so did you have to have the fire marshal come up to your property and inspect
I
it?
did. I did not. I had a contractor come who is knowledgeable in writing up plans for fire marshal approvals. And I had him come and do an inspection before I had the fire marshal come because I was of course nervous to have a marshal of any type come into
Yeah,
my
right.
home. So anyhow, that being said, when he dug deeper, he found that in writing to the fire marshal concerning my case, the fire marshal said that if he's got home occupancy, what just one employee, we do not need to come in and make a fire marshal inspection.
Hmm,
So that particular bit of digging on behalf of Tall Truck is very beneficial to Tall Truck and very beneficial to many, many folks in the state for that to have been uncovered. So
okay.
that is I did not have to have the fire marshal come. I do not have to have the fire marshal come if I'm keeping things under 1,000 square feet in my home.
Yeah, because you made a follow-up point about this too, about how um, some folks who are thinking about going from the black market into the white market might be hesitant to do that if they thought maybe the fire marshal was just going to show up at their property or something like that.
That's true. I still feel that way, and I still on a regular basis, probably almost daily, I probably think, damn, should I move into the white market? It's just going to be a hassle. Should I move into the white market? Maybe I should just keep going the way I'm going. But of course I am, and I want to, and I'm proud to. But when you go through some of these checklists and you figure out what you have to do, it's still, things are just so much the way that they have been forever in the black market. And it's just easy, but I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for legal.
Well, that's a respectable position. It seems like a lot of guys feel like that, and it's definitely like I feel like you could just stay on the black market and kill it. You're doing
Yeah,
great. I mean, you've
yeah,
already
I
got a
know.
network of customers, you've got packaging, you've got distribution, you got employees. So and I mean, look how much money you've had to dump into this to get ready for it. So I think that's super respectable that despite all of that, you're still trying to do this the right way.
Yeah, that's important to me.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear, man. Where was I going with this? I want to well, I wanted to mention this. I'm puffing on this tall truck cart right here while we're talking.
Hmm.
And this boy, purple punch, whatever that is delicious, man.
Right on.
Yeah, and now you said that you like to use a blend of CBD oil in your carts because of these THC caps. And you're the only one I've heard of that's doing that. Although I'm sure there's probably someone else. But what gave you that idea?
Well, I'll say initially, I had been led to believe that there was going to be a 60% THC cap on concentrates and on carts. So my first batch of carts, which I made, I don't know, probably 8 months ago or whatnot, I had them blended down to 60% THC so that I could keep in what I was foreseeing as the upcoming limits. Now, many carts on the market, people don't know what they're blended with to get them down to a 60% THC level. Some states have that, I believe. That being said, there is a lot of, not necessarily kind stuff that people are blending with their distillate to make their carts. So for me, I asked my chemist if it was possible to blend it with CBD oil so that we knew exactly what was going in there so that it was as much Vermont as possible. And he said, well, I don't see why not. And we had a couple of test runs, and that's how we came up with blending it with that CBD oil and in the percentages that we did. Now, that being said, I've also gone through that first initial 60% THC cart batch that I did, and then I have found out that there is not going to be that limit. There's not going to be the cap on liquid concentrates.
Have they lifted that?
So They did. They lifted
Okay.
that. Well, yes, they did. And the solid concentrates, I believe it's still 60%, which is a bunch
Okay.
of malarkey. But on the
Mhm.
liquid concentrates, it's not, there's no percentage cap. So that being said, I did my last batch at 80, I think it's 82 or 83%. We tried to do it full distillate without cutting it with anything, but we found that it was too stiff and it didn't flow well in the carts. So I blended it with a very minimal amount of CBD oil, or my chemist blended it with a very minimal amount of CBD oils to get it so that it was fluid in the cart, so that it would still continue to flow down. It was too stiff previously, with just straight distillate. That's what we discovered. Others may have had different luck with that, but for us, that's how it works. So right now, what you're puffing on there is roughly 80 to 83% THC.
Huh. And where do you get the CBD from? Is that sourced locally?
CBD is so Vermont source CBD. Sure it is. Of course it is.
And who are you working with for the extractions, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I don't know if I should give
Okay.
out where I'm getting it extracted just
that's-
yet. I would love to and be proud to, but I haven't asked for their permission.
Sure. Maybe you could ask them later and maybe we could chat.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll put a pin in that. Yeah, boy.
That's a good one. You might want to speak with my chemist.
I would love to.
He's-
I spoke with one other PhD lab tech and I loved it because I have a physics degree and I love to nerd out. I'm not good at
That's
chemistry.
right.
But yeah, I do
So
love talking science.
this guy's a really smart guy, and he's got a really good finger on the cannabis world.
Okay, cool. I want to talk about water usage. That's something I've been talking with everybody about, and I'm curious how you manage your water. What are you? Do you have a well? Are you hooked up to the municipal water supply? Talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, at this point, and probably for forever, I'm hoping I have my own well that I have had drilled on my property, and it's been servicing me forever, for 20 years or so. But that is what I use for my water. For my discarded water, at the moment, it's going into a leach field, it's nothing fancy. It's just basically piped out into a large gravel pit that I've got several layers of crushed stone, and it's leaching into the ground that way. One of the things that I am looking into is reclaiming that water in a way that I will reuse it back on my property and use some of those nutrients to further grow my grass and my hay field, for example. But at the moment, it's just going into a leach field.
Cool. And so you have your own well, though, so you're not getting municipal water that's been treated a million times
not at
and
all.
recycled.
No, it's
fresh
coming
Vermont
straight out
rainwater.
of the ground. Yeah, it's right straight out of the ground. It's Vermont, it's groundwater, and it comes out with about a 70 parts per million concentrate of dissolved solids, which I don't know exactly what they are at this point. I did, but I haven't looked at my testing from my people who drilled my well 15, 20 years ago. I did know that I should check it and see what it is.
Are there any requirements in the legislation or in the control board rules about water testing or quality control or anything like that?
That's a really good question. I do not know about that, and I've not heard a single mention of that. But as far as the input water, that's a really interesting question. My guess is that most growers would want to be real careful about their input water because it has such an effect on the final product that ideally they want to have a quality input water. So, people on municipal water supplies that are treated like that, I'm assuming are going to RO their water, or they're going to do some kind of a treatment to it to give them a good product.
Are you using any kind of the reverse osmosis before you put it in?
Nope, I do not use any RO. I water my dissolved solids right at a point where I'm pretty cool that they don't affect negatively anything. And also, I feel like what is probably in there is somewhat beneficial. Some of the minerals that are dissolved in there are actually probably beneficial for what I've got going on.
Yeah, if it's just coming out of well. Yeah.
For me too, that RO thing and treating your water, it's a very expensive as far as energy and wastewater. There's so much wastewater involved with that that I really feel fortunate that my water is of a quality that's not needed.
Well, it also removes a lot of like metals and things like that, right? And then you have all these leftover metals that you filtered out. And then I think Nick said that just goes in a landfill, really.
Yep, it does. Yep, it pretty much does.
Yeah. So we were talking about waste a lot with like the packaging, and let's dive into this a little
Sure.
bit. Because the way actually he explained it kind of well. I was actually kind of tight. I busted your balls a little bit about the plastic packaging, but after talking to you and talking to Nick, it's like I've really rethought my stance on this, because what you guys said made a lot of sense. And what Nick said was every industry generates waste. There's going to be waste. You can't help it. He's like, for the lifestyles that we live and the things that we want to do and have, there's going to be waste. Now, how do you manage it? And I know so you're getting the plastic sort of Mylar bags from China. And I believe, well, I'll let you talk about it. You were talking about some of the costs and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on the packaging situation?
The situation are varied. It's going to be really, really difficult. I think that this is a difficult subject for me in several ways, because as you just mentioned, I've been running Mylar now since 2018, when I first when I came up with the logo and a label. I've been running Mylar, and I am obviously not thrilled with I'm thrilled with how it works. It works wonderfully, but I'm not thrilled with the recycling aspects of it or any of that, obviously. So,
well, it's not recyclable, right?
No, it's not recyclable, and that's really bothersome. But it's non-permeable. It keeps the scent in, which for many years has been very important. It may not be as important as we unfold, but things unfold. Okay, that being said, here I know that we have to move on to environmental options, and I am not a big jar fan for several reasons. One of them is the bulkiness of them and the fragility of them, and I just know that, for example, moving a pound of Mylar pouches takes up some bulk regardless, but moving a pound of jars of 1/8, but all of my pouches are 1/8, so moving an 1/8 pound of jars in 1/8, the bulk, the weight for me is going to be prohibitive. The space that they're going to take up to store these things before they get used is another difficult thing to come up with, because there's not a lot of space, and it's going to take pallets of jars to maintain what I can do with just several boxes of Mylar. So that's one of the aspects for me. I don't know. I would love them, and I can't believe we haven't got some kind of an alternative that's environmentally responsible for
some kind
this
of hemp
Mylar.
plastic, maybe.
Hemp plastic. I cannot believe that there's nothing like that hasn't been developed yet, and I'm sure that they're just about to have it.
It's out there. I've seen a couple, but none of them are around here. They were in California, I think.
So this packaging thing is really difficult decision for me. I would like to do some kind of a tin, because I really like tins, but they are not as easily sealed, from what I am learning, to keep everything as fresh as I'd like to. So I'm probably leaning towards these darn jars.
Or like a child-proof tin. Like, how do you make that child resistant?
Right. Well, they do have them. I guess they have a similar kind of a function like this push and turn regular jar lid. That's what I've been looking into.
Now, I know you said like 2,000 of those bags come in a box, and it's a really small box. And I thought that was a good point. The size it takes when you're shipping. And you said I think they cost about 20 cents a piece, like so maybe $400.
Yes, they're like 16 cents a piece or something like that. And for me, that's a big concern. Is I can fit 2,000 bags in a box that's very moderately sized, but 2,000 in that box can get shipped here from China, taking up minimal space in a storage container, and be shipped over here. Whereas that 2,000 jars, I don't know exactly, but I'm assuming 2,000 1/8 jars is going to take up a substantial amount of space, maybe a pallet, maybe 2 pallets, which is going to take up more space in the shipping container and allow less material, less things to be moved, less things to be shipped on the same in the same container. I don't know. These are
No, that
just
was
my
an
own
interesting.
thoughts.
I thought that was a very
But
interesting point. I had never thought of that, you know, so.
so as far as being and balancing out environmentally, these jars may be recyclable and might be, but I don't know if they take more energy in producing than the Mylar bags. I don't know if they, and I can only assume they take a lot more energy in transporting these jars as they do to transporting these Mylar bags of the same scale,
They also
the
have to
same
be,
amount rather.
they also have to be sterilized if you want to recycle them, you know, so I'm sure sterilization costs some money.
Is another energy use. So nothing. I don't know what the percentages are as far as there's this much energy being used for Mylar bag into the jars and shipping and all this stuff. So I just from my own, I don't know what's more really truly environmental in the long run.
You know, and the pre-roll, the little pre-roll tubes that people use, those all have like a sticker on them. So now every time you clean it off, you're gonna have to take the sticker off, put a new sticker on. You know, so I thought that was really cool that you brought that up, because I would have never, I was prepared to bust your balls pretty hard about that, and you had me totally thinking about it in a new light. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. I don't really know what the answer and what the right solution is for that. And it's something I've been grappling with for years now, years trying to come up with something that I'm more morally comfortable with.
How much more would it cost? You said it's about 16 cents per bag. How much would it cost, like, per jar? Do you have any idea how much more?
I don't, because I actually just got some templates the other day. I have to decide on some templates for jars and get pricing done on that. So I'm not sure how much per jar.
Well,
and I'm not sure how much more shipping it is.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Because shipping is going to be a lot more for several pallets of. If I order 10,000 jars or 10,000 pouches, 10,000 pouches comes, on a half a pallet. Yeah. But 10,000 jars, I don't know how many that's going to take up.
Yeah.
Where do I put those fuckers when I get them to my house?
Yeah, boy, that's another great question. Oh boy, let me ask you. Where was I going with that? I'm having a stoner moment right here. I'll skip ahead.
You were talking about busting my balls anyway.
Yeah, I was.
I remember that.
The board said they were talking about, originally maybe allowing some plastic. Then they said maybe no plastic at all. And I started thinking, like, how do you make a package with no plastic? Are we talking about an all glass package? Are we talking about an all metal package? There's always a little bit of plastic somewhere. Like Nick's packaging, he has a top made out of reclaimed ocean plastic, which I was into, and I see a lot of people are doing that now. Mm-hmm. If there was a local option for a packaging company, would you be interested in exploring that?
Of course I would. If I can keep everything in Vermont, I would keep everything in Vermont. And for me, that's very important.
And it doesn't seem like there's really any packaging company. I think I talked to one, but the options for packaging in Vermont seem pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, they'd seem that way with me. I haven't had much luck with that. The only thing that I've had luck with is my labeling. All my labeling comes from Vermont.
Oh, okay.
So I keep all of that. I keep that also. All my my labels have changed over time, but all my stickers now and everything I keep in Vermont, my labels had been all Vermont, but now with the pre-printed packages, it's all China. Which is disappointing.
Yeah, and I mean, but at some point, like, costs are, you're a business owner. Costs add up, and if you got a $60,000 electric bill, and you got to pay thousands of dollars for your licensing fees and your application and all this shit, it's like, eventually nickels and dimes become, big piles of dollars.
That's exactly right. And as another thing for me is I pay one of, if not the most expensive electric rate in the state. I'm pretty sure Washington Electric has the highest electric rate in the state, but that is as a result of our being 100% renewable electricity, which is something that I'm proud of. But that is just another one of those nickels and dimes. If you're paying whatever much more, 0.2 of a cent more per kilowatt hour as the next guy down the road who is with Green Mountain Power or whatnot, that's just another one of those nickels and dimes things that adds up a lot over the course of the year.
Damn. Now, you talked about Washington Electric. I wanted to ask you about them. Because I believe your packaging says made with 100% renewable energy or something to that effect.
That's correct. That's correct.
Would you explain that a little bit?
Well, I happen to be fortunate in that my electrical grid, who supplies the electricity to my facility, is Washington Electric, and they're the only electrical grid in the state at the moment that offers 100% renewable electricity. There's two others, I believe, that they told me about recently that are just on the cusp of having 100% renewable electricity in the state of Vermont. But at the moment, it's just Washington Electric. And Washington Electric gets its electricity from wind, from hydro, from solar, and from the burning of methane gas out of landfills, Vermont landfills. So yes. So as far as for me, that has been very influential as far as my potential expansion plans. I've had people approach me in other areas and with properties and with buildings that haven't been under 100% renewable electricity. So I have that is part of my decision making. It requires that aspect because I want to be as environmental as possible.
Sure.
I want to have as minimal of an impact as possible on the environment because cannabis, as we know, the cannabis industry is very impactful on the environment, very impactful, especially indoor growing. Indoor growing in particular is very impactful. So that is one thing that steers my decisions.
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
No, but then again, here I am using Mylar. Here I am. But then again, I'm not sold on other recyclable jars, for example, being less impactful overall in the big production, overall the whole life of things being less impactful than Mylar. Someone needs to sell me on this and present me with why Mylar is, and then I will believe and change and have a firm knowledge. But regardless, being environmental and responsible is super important.
Well, so here's an interesting thought. So those Mylar bags, those are going to end up in a landfill in Vermont. They'll go to Coventry. Maybe they're going to buy it, or they'll dissolve and add to the methane that's being captured to sell back to you to power your operation.
It's a big circle. You never know. It could be part of that big circle at some point in time.
Knock that around your noggin later, but I just wanted to slide that in there. I thought that was
I haven't yet, but I will. That's interesting.
Now, listen, let me ask you this. I want to go back to the social media thing. Can you explain to me why I started following your page and suddenly my Instagram is blowing up with skateboarding videos and skiing videos?
Well, you're welcome. No, just kidding.
I am. I love that
those
shit.
are fun, they're fun stuff to watch. It's because I discovered with time that after I didn't know anything about social media at the beginning. I knew nothing about it at all. And I opened up my Tall Truck account, didn't really know what to do, didn't really know what to post. Everybody has cannabis pictures, but I post cannabis pictures because that's what I knew that people were doing, and everybody posts cannabis pictures. And then a fellow that I know recommended that I talk to his brother, who is a professional skateboarder. His name's Jordan Maxham, and he's a skateboarder from Northfield, Vermont, Vermont's only pro skater. Lives out in Los Angeles. He said, send him a message, see if you guys might work together. And I did, and we ended up, developing a relationship and what has turned into a really good, close friendship. And through not knowing anything about skateboarding prior to getting to know Jordan, through Jordan, I have gotten nothing. I've got nothing. Wow. And I've gotten to know the skateboarding community, and that expanded into the snowboarding and skiing community. And we are working with roller skaters now and pogo stickers. So I found a niche that really works for Tall Truck and cannabis and adrenaline athletes. What's the right word? These action sports athletes.
Yeah, extremes.
Action sports, extreme sports, and THC go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with that, and I'm also an avid skier myself, and I've always kind of liked adrenaline as well. So I guess that I've discovered a formula that has worked well for Tall Truck, and that's how my social media how I've learned, just trial and error.
You're over 8,000 on Instagram, which is pretty fucking solid for a Vermont cannabis company. Like, I don't know who has more. I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but most guys your age are not particularly well versed in the social media, and you seem to be killing it.
I can't believe it at 51 years old, how I've been able to get a handle and start to figure it all out. And I guess, you know, something, maybe it's kind of having a young mind. Maybe it's kind of just being open to new stuff and always wanting to learn and figure stuff out. But I've gotten really good at social media. And I mean, really good, a lot better than a lot of younger people that I have asked for advice, and they're giving me poor advice or advice that I've already
You're
tried.
killing
It didn't
them.
work.
Don't worry about that.
So
You're doing just fine, man.
thanks.
Yeah, and you got dudes that like down in Colombia, like skateboarding around with your hoodies on, and tell us a little bit about some of the events that you've done down there and that kind of stuff.
We've had some really neat stuff going on down there. I'll tell you, the folks in Colombia are so thankful and so appreciative to have an American company that's down there and actually showing an interest in their talents. Because I'll tell you, there's a lot of really, really talented athletes in Colombia.
Oh man,
really
the
talented.
The skateboarding scene down in South America is crazy.
It's crazy. They're really talented, and they don't get any recognition because they're down there and there's not much money down there for them to be recognized with. So not that Tall Truck has a lot of money and spends a lot of money down there, but the little that we have spent down there has been really appreciated and really just ballooned into us getting a really good reputation and notoriety down there. We've got some really quality skateboarders that skate for Tall Truck down there. We've got some really quality filmers and editors. Oh artists. My God, guys are really good at filming and editing. And
artists, didn't you have some big murals done?
Yes, I got a really good graffiti artist that graffitis for Tall Truck. I have some really neat stuff outside of the normal Tall Truck box coming from Colombia in the next several weeks. Some really neat content that's maybe pushing the limits a little bit. We're going to see how it's
that's
received.
What action sports is all about, really.
Yeah, I got a really neat athlete coming up doing something unique that's not anything that we've done before. So that's going to be fun.
Teaser. Yeah, that's a teaser right there, man. Well played.
There's a teaser right there. But
go ahead.
Yeah, Colombia's been Colombia, I'll tell you, down there, they all want Tall Truck Cannabis. They keep asking. I get messages all the time asking, where can you get Tall Truck Cannabis down here? We obviously can't yet. Yeah, I'll tell you, the weed down there is really subpar. But you know, there is occasionally some decent stuff you can find, but in general it's very subpar, outdoor commercial grown. But we do want to have a branch down there. We're going to hopefully throughout this year get our hydro setup built down there and just start offering a little bit of Tall Truck Cannabis. I've already got some peyote critical seeds down there that are waiting.
Is weed legal in Colombia?
You can grow 20 plants in Colombia. Weed's legal.
What the fuck?
Yep. Everybody can grow 20 plants down there. But nobody really has a lot of money, dude. You have to grow good weed. It takes some money to get good soil and to buy nutrients and blah, blah, blah. So they just buy the shit, dirt, brick, crappy weed. And that's what they still have down there.
Some of the neighborhoods that I saw you going into looked very poor. They looked like favelas or like, yeah. I bet those streets have not seen a lot of white guys from Vermont.
Never, probably. And some of the neighborhoods that I've been allowed and invited to go into have never seen a white guy, period. But that's another thing we're doing this particular weekend. Tomorrow, we're having a community. We're fixing up a park down there for these in this really, really difficult neighborhood, really dangerous, really difficult neighborhood. But we're fixing up a small park for the kids to have a place to play because, like you said, it's a favela and they're just buildings on top of buildings with narrow alleyways. The kids have no place to play. So tomorrow there's a community effort. I really wanted to go down there for this, but we've donated some cement and we've donated rebar.
How often do you go down there?
I try to go down 4 to 5 times a year.
Wow.
To go work in some of these neighborhoods, but also to put on some really neat events, some really bitchin' skateboarding events down there, like really big ones, really popular.
And you doing best trick competition? I saw you had a food truck or something hired, and you were giving out food to people.
Yeah, we do. We do that here too. Here, when I have my Tall Truck Hucks, I grill all the food for everybody. But down there, it's not quite. The logistics are different.
You grilling all the food too, Devon?
I grill all the food, and I've actually literally taken it off of the grill and put it in the buns that the people have in their hands. It's important to me, dude. It's important to me, serving, giving back, and serving. You know, something I really get a lot of satisfaction from that. If you can't, when you come to one of our events, you'll be like, dude, that guy doesn't stop. He's working. He's not even hardly enjoying the show, but I am enjoying the show by doing this. But regardless, down there in Colombia, I'm not able to cook. So what we do is I go to Domino's and I buy like freaking 15 or 20 medium pizzas. And that's what we do down there as far as the people. And I'll tell you, down there, this might, I don't even sound, you know, snobby or anything, but that's probably, for some of those people, that's one of the best meals. That one slice of pizza and a bottle of water is one of the best meals that they might have had all week long. For some of these kids at some of these events, I mean, some of these little kids, they're really talented, but there's no adult supervision. They're there literally all day at this event, no parents around, nobody wondering what they're doing. And then they get this piece of pizza and this bottle of water, and they are freaking, they got a great big smile, and they're just, you know, that they're actually, they're thin, and you know that they're getting at least a good lunch.
And what, you said you're handing out cash prizes for best trick competitions or something like that?
Yep, that's what we do. We usually do, you know, $50 to $100 for three different categories of best tricks on three different features in the park. So there might be $100 and $5 bills, for example, or $50 and $5 bills and $50 worth of tall truck packages going out on this feature, and then $50 worth of $5 bills over on this feature. And there's a half an hour people throw down, and it's a really fun time.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Boy, well, yeah, that's a lot of philanthropy in between your other 19-hour work days.
Dude, I'm trying to do so much stuff. And you know, one of the things for me that's really neat is that it's all thanks to the cannabis plant. All that I'm able to do, all this shit that I'm doing, and I'm doing a ton of shit that people that I don't talk about, that people don't know, behind the scenes stuff too, it's all be able to do because of cannabis.
Imagine that.
I love this plant. This plant. It's got so many good, it's bringing so much joy to so many people in so many ways. And I'm happy to be part of it all.
Boy, Devon, listen, I got 2 minutes before this one's chopped. Do you want to do one more? I got one more here. You got time?
Okay, let's do one more, buddy. Let's do one
it.
More.
Fantastic. All right,
okay.
We'll be right back.